Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight's stories include season. The theater arts class here in Burgeo participated in a video exchange. The sea freeze plant was not quite as busy this week. These stories and more coming up after this. Please stay tuned.
Welcome to Label Smart, our nutrition labeling quiz with our guests for today, Louise Davies and Maria Gomez.
Hello, I am very pleased to be here today. Hello.
First question. Many foods labeled light have less fat or fewer calories. Tell me, is this the case for all foods labeled light?
No. Light soy sauce could have less salt, and an oil could be light only in color or taste. The label should say why the food is light.
Boy, she doesn't take her labels lightly.
For instance, for a fat claim, the manufacturer must always give the percentage fat reduction and how much fat there is in one serving.
For healthy eating, consider light products, especially those reduced in fat.
I guess you could say my contribution was very light.
The smart eater is labeled smart. A message from the National Institute of Nutrition.
The local tourist chalet museum is now open for this tourist season. Tourists and local people are invited to drop by the museum to look at the many artifacts on display there. I'm here at the Burgeo Tourist Chalet Museum with some of the students that are working here for the summer. First of all, can I get your names?
Sammy Sims.
Gina Reed. Renee Skinner.
Ginger Dalman.
Renee, how long has the Burgeo Museum Tourist Chalet been open?
And Sunday is 12 to 8.
Ginger, how many students are employed here at the museum for the summer?
Well, there's 5 in total, and 4 are under Challenge 96, and Renee is here by SWAS.
Renee, have you had many visitors so far this year?
Well, 18 so far, but there's a few that came in never signs.
So, Ginger, were many of these visitors from out of town?
Yeah, mostly the people who did visit were out of town.
Gina, how many artifacts are currently on display here at the local museum?
We have on record approximately 300.
Sammy, how would someone go about getting an item displayed here at the museum?
Well, you could contact any of us down town council, or you could just bring it on in.
Okay, is there anything that either of you would like to add about the museum?
Well, if anyone would like to bring in any crafts for the museum, just bring one in and just sell them whatever price you want. And the museum takes 25% off that price.
Okay, so Sammy, what are your plans for September?
Well, I'm going down to St. John's Memorial University, just general studies.
Okay, Gina?
I'm returning St. John's in the fall, Memorial, and I'm taking Bachelor of Education.
Renee?
I'm going to Steve Melvis.
And Ginger?
I'm going to Cornell Memorial University.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you for speaking with us today, and we wish you the best of luck in your studies come September. Students involved in the theater arts program at St. John's Central High last year took part in a video exchange with students at the high school in Lourdes on the Port-au-Port Peninsula. The students discussed issues facing teenagers in their communities and looked for possible solutions. Here is one of the skits put together by the theater arts students here in Burgeo.
Oh, man, I'll stick the same
What are we going to do here? We're getting on the go, man. Get late.
Yeah,
Go and drink right.
yeah.
Who's going to get?
Well, man, we got to find somewhere to go first. We're going to go.
What booze?
Your house.
Yeah.
Okay, you know. How much you going to get?
case.
Okay. I got to get my dog. I got to get a dog. Oh, yeah.
You doing, boys?
Here's your money.
Is that Victor?
Hey! Just wait a second, brother.
Take on, man.
Here, man. That's for a little fundraiser we got, eh?
Beer for
So we at?
Nothing much, bro. You drink it, right? I don't know. Huh?
We are.
Oh, we are, man.
Yeah. We're on the brew.
So, you up to buying any beer or what?
I don't know, boy. I don't know about you folks.
What do you mean, big fella?
Oh, you do walking shop, boy. Beer, Lord, that's better, man.
I don't know.
Come on, boy.
There's no, I don't know, boy. You. I don't
What you bought it for, man? Come on.
I don't know. He knows what you fellas like, man. Cops all over you.
Oh, yeah, since when?
Yeah, but since when? Yeah, I was already
Since you
there,
turned
man.
19?
Hey, no cases use this.
That Travis, we're gonna take care of Travis.
Yeah, we're taking care of Travis. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Look at me. I never get in any trouble.
Well, this could be the night, buddy.
No,
this could be the
Oh,
night.
come on, now.
Well, no, you team
Travis,
up,
man.
man.
We'll buy some beer too.
Yeah, get some more.
No, that's right, boy.
All right,
No,
well.
that's okay, boy.
Well, come on,
money.
Come on.
I don't want your money. I won't buy
Take
it.
your pocket for what?
No, that's right, boy.
Come on, bud. Man, that's gross.
Come on.
Come on, bud. You owes me a favor, man. Look, take it.
Give him a face,
You know, you said you was gonna buy a beer for me
I don't
next time.
care. You fall. No, I don't trust you for enough.
You don't need money out of
We
it.
gonna go
You
get
trust
it
us last week.
Yeah,
Back first.
yeah, we're gonna try this
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. We'll get $2 each. You get your own.
Yeah, you want to take it up there, don't you?
Hey,
Not right for you.
man.
Oh, you're rude. You ever get ready? We're gonna roll you behind your back. Yeah, probably if this will take you.
Come on. $2 each.
No.
You can't. No,
Come on, man.
Come on, boy. Hey, look. Here's $2.
I said, what? I said, I can't do it.
You put it on, buddy.
I give you 5. Look, there you go. Look.
Heard on the money.
No,
Come on, boy. Come on, boy.
Holy God.
Come on,
Oh, I heard you
but
going
2
shop
dozen
up
beer,
there.
man. 2 dozen, what you want?
Two dozen beer for what? Hey, what did you use for?
Oh, no. Yeah, we're all 70.
no.
No bigger than you.
Oh, no, you old enough, you boys.
Yeah,
Come on. We're old enough to
Yeah, oh, yeah, sure.
Oh,
Come on, boy.
Come on, man.
These boys goes in there. I goes in there, picks up some beer for you boys. These boys goes out, gets loaded junk.
Oh, yeah, 2 dozen beer, man.
Oh,
Come on, boy.
Victor bought beer first, and
yeah.
he bought tail my time. I don't let you fellas like.
You bought it for,
we
man.
never busted forward. We drink all the last one.
Oh, I can't believe this, man.
Come on, boy.
He's going to get somebody else, boy. You going to
Come on, boy. You don't buy first. You're not going camping with us next week. That's it. That's it.
If you just go to that try to blackmail me, he wants to go. Not going to let us go camping because I'm
You're not.
That's weenie, my son.
Not weenie,
You're weenie. You're not going to buy it.
I goes in
Hey,
there, you
chicken.
just caught.
You're a chicken.
Yeah, chicken.
You're a chicken.
You be chicken too. You gotta get caught with. If I use for
You're saying,
Hey, only a month ago, you look for beer. You're in the same situation, so I think you know how it feels. So, a purchase, please.
I say that new woman he got. Made south. That woman he got. Sell that.
Chickens Road.
Turn around.
Later today, we should.
Yeah.
Students from Lourdes responded with ideas on how they would handle this situation.
Okay, the first skit we watched that you gave us was where an older guy was pressured into getting beer for a bunch of younger guys. That happens a lot around here too, not only for guys, for girls too.
Yeah,
right?
we've seen it a lot. Actually, recently, I've had friends of mine have another person like buy a beer for them, and he did give in. Really, he was taking chances, and he realized that. But you know,
it is a lot of chances. If you get caught, you're
in a lot of trouble. Yeah, it happens like every day, even especially now where summer started. Like just the other day, I was going down the road with my friends. Well, a couple of my friends, I met them. I was on a bike, and a guy stopped. He was in a car, and he said, "Well, yeah, you guys come camping with us this weekend?" He said, and they said, "Yeah, sure, if you're gonna get us some beer." And he said, "Well, yeah, hey, no problem, right?" But like he can, if he ever gets caught, he can get in a lot of trouble, right?
That's right. I mean, basically, you know, you should say no, but saying no is harder to.
Yeah, it is hard to do when they're nagging you and saying, "Well, come on, it's just this one time."
Yeah.
Then they keep coming back again and again and again.
Yeah, that's the bad thing about giving in once, too. They know you did it once, so, you know, why not do it again?
That's right.
Yeah. And around here, where we have to go so far, there's not many people. There's like, we always hang around with older people, too, right? So that makes it that much easier.
Yeah, because you're so close and they know that, you know.
What you should do, if somebody asks you for a beer, just say, "No, we can't, man."
Both videos will be shown in their entirety later in the week. Stay tuned, there's more of This Week in Review still to follow.
Welcome to Label Smart, our nutrition labeling quiz. Today our guests are Mrs. Simpson and Mrs. and Mrs. Simpson.
She's my sister-in-law.
There's no rule against that. So here's our first question. How can you cut half of the calories in the dressing you use on your salad?
By using half as much.
I prefer using calorie-reduced dressing.
You're both right. By regulation, calorie-reduced products must contain no more than half the calories of the regular ones. This one has 30 calories per serving.
As long as you don't use twice as much.
Calorie-reduced products are great for variety. I'm watching my weight and I stick to 1 tablespoon.
To help you maintain a healthy weight, enjoy both healthy eating and regular physical activity.
What does he think we've been doing?
The Smart Eater is Label Smart, a message from the National Institute of Nutrition.
The sea freeze plant here in Burgeo was a beehive of activity last week, but things have been rather quiet this week, thanks largely to Mother Nature. Due to the uncooperative weather, volunteers have not been able to do any cleanup work outside the sea freeze property this week. But looking across the reach, one can see a noticeable improvement in the plant's appearance. Mr. Barry, owner of Sea Freeze, was scheduled to be in Burgeo tomorrow, allowing representatives from the union for a meeting with the local committee made up of representatives from the town council and local union executive. However, BBS was informed Friday that this meeting has been postponed until later in the month. I spoke with student placement worker Amanda Kosser about the number of students employed for this summer. Speaking with me in the studio today is Amanda Kosser. Amanda has been hired by the Canada Employment Outreach Office here in Burgeo as student placement worker for this summer. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
Can you tell us how many student positions were approved for Burgeo for the summer under the Challenge 96 program?
Well, there were a total of 37 positions approved for this area. But in addition to this, the Ramya Boy Scouts had 2 students approved. Now, one of the students was from Burgeo and one of them was from Ramya, so there was really 38 students from here.
These 2 students were for the Stag Lake
Yes.
camp? Okay. Were all of these jobs filled?
Well, 3 of the employers decided against hiring, so there was really only 35 students hired for the summer.
A number of students have also been hired recently under the SWAS program. Do you know how many SWAS positions were approved for Burgeo?
Well, we don't have a list right now of all the approvals and all the students, but we're hoping to get it later on, so we don't really know the total number.
Were there any students hired for this summer outside of the Challenge and SWAS programs?
Yes, there were 2.
How does the number of students with jobs this summer compare to the number of students that were seeking employment for the summer?
Well, there was a total of 66 students who brought in resumes for various Challenge 96 positions. Now, 35 of the students got Challenge 96 jobs, which left 31 students unemployed, but a numerous number of students were employed under SWAS. So roughly there should be about 20 to 25 students unemployed for the summer.
Okay, you held a meeting for these students on Tuesday to set up an odd job squad. How many students came forward to work with the odd job squad?
There was a total of 16 students that came for the meeting.
What types of activities do these students come up with to try and earn money over the summer?
Well, we've planned the regular bingos and the car washes. There will be several of these throughout the summer. In addition to this, students came up with a couple of new ideas, such as basketball tournaments and volleyball tournaments, which will go on throughout the summer.
Okay, you had a car wash scheduled for this past week, but the weather didn't cooperate.
Yes.
So will this car wash be going ahead next week?
It will go ahead sometime throughout next week. It will be notified on Channel 10.
You gotta hope for a good day.
Yes, hope.
Okay. If there's any business, organization, or individual that would like to hire a student for an hour, day, week, or longer, how would they go about doing it?
Well, they could contact me at the Canada Employment Outreach Office and just tell me what type of work they would like done. And they would have to provide the materials, and I would get a student for them who would come up and do the labor, however long they would want the student. Now, there's also going to be a couple bingos, and the students got to work off their money with the bingos. Now they will work off this money by doing jobs for seniors or widows who need the work. They would have to provide the materials and the student will work for them free of labor, and they would earn their bingo money that way.
Okay, so for anyone who's wondering about bingo cards, students don't just sell the cards and get the money.
No, they have to work off the money.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I just hope that everyone would come out and help support the unemployed students. They really could use the money and the help.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you for coming in and speaking with us today.
Okay, thank you.
Our guest today is Amanda Kosser, student placement worker at the Canada Employment Outreach Office here in Burgeo. Throughout the next few weeks, we will be visiting a number of student workplaces to see what they're working at and to find out a bit more about their future plans. Stay tuned for more of This Week in Review, coming up after this.
Welcome to Label Smart, our nutrition labeling quiz. Today we have with us Mr. Lewis and Mrs. Sinclair. First question, what are the 3 claims manufacturers can use to indicate that a food contains a significant amount of fiber?
Well, I eat fiber every day, and
I see we have similar taste.
as I was saying, a very high sauce has the most fiber. A high sauce has a bit less, and a sauce has a bit less still.
And tell me, what do you notice about the amount of fiber and fat on these 2 cereal labels?
The amount of fiber is the same, but one has more fat. I love cereal. And you?
It's important to choose lower-fat foods more often, and it's also good to get fiber from a variety of sources.
Variety is the spice of healthy eating.
How about a little snack? Full of fiber, of course.
The Smart Eater is labeled smart. A message from the National Institute of Nutrition.
Off the rack. As mentioned earlier in tonight's broadcast, the local tourist chalet museum is now open for the season. This week as we scanned our tape racks, we came across a video of the building as plans for its transformation into the museum were about to get underway. Here's a look back to an interview inside the Tourist Chalet Museum, which originally aired June 28, 1992. Gord, what kind of plans do the museum committee have for the building?
Well, Dave, we've got some very good plans. Well, first, as you can see, it's nothing but one ridiculous mess there now. We've got 3 students hired under Challenge 92 grant, and they're going to come in on Monday to start clean the building up. And they say on the walls, what we're going to do for now, we're going to try and hopefully a couple of carpenters will come forward, and we're looking at probably at waist level to do some shelving and probably have them covered with plexiglass, and that way we can start displaying the antiques and a lot of the history items of Burgeo. A lot of that we do have cataloged from students that worked on the Challenge 91 grant, and what Walter Sims, passed over to the town a few weeks ago. So we're hoping to be able to display that all around the building as of now. We do have a lot of plans for it. We plan on, of course, place where the landscape, where we have room for expansion if need be, and I feel it's a very important building to Burgeo, but one thing I want to emphasize is that it's not a committee museum, it's not a council museum, it's the old town's museum, and people are going to be having things placed in there that belongs to their families, goes back years. I'm not quite sure of the oldest item that we got, but we know for a fact that one thing is 89 years ago that it was brought to Burgeo. It wasn't brought new, it was brought to Burgeo, and that family passed it over to be placed in this museum. Another old item we got is an old lamp that was found in the Sandbanks Pond when they drained it a few years ago. So that's been passed over to the museum. So we've got some very old items and a lot of items of some very good history and interesting stories to be told about it. And some more repairs we need is the door. The door is going to have to be replaced. Well, probably one of the first things that's going to be done is the door is going to be replaced after the building is cleaned up. We plan on putting some little counter air sort of that each and every year we can have a student that, you have a guest book and welcome people into the town, and passing some literature around the town, like the brochures that the Development Association in the town have done up on sandbanks and the surrounding area. The place needs to be rewired. All this wiring that's on the walls now, that's got to go. That's no longer allowed. And so we're hoping that a couple of people that knows wiring to offer their services and wire the building for us. Because we do have some. Well, I guess the museum comes from the idea of when we had come home here. And I'm not quite sure what money that the town's got for that now, but I do know for a fact that there's over $10,000 passed over to the town. That's been in a GIC, and so we've accumulated the interest on that ever since '88. But we don't want to use that money yet until we got to it. We do have a $250 grant from the government to sort of help us with the painting and things like that. But the wiring, the cost of the wiring will, like I said, to take that out of the money. And over the winter, we can do some planning on what we're going to do with the monies that's in that GIC. So other than that, that's about all I can tell you, Dave. Other than we're going to be putting a sign outside saying Virgil Tourist Chalet and Museum. And we're also going to have a sign in the road saying like Virgil Tourist Chalet and Museum, however many kilometers is going to be from that sign in there. The place is going to be painted outside as quickly as possible. Like I said, we only got 3 students and we got a lot of work. So if anybody wants to volunteer, that we can find a day's work. We don't expect somebody to come in here 2 or 3 days, week upon a time. But if we had, say, half a dozen or a dozen people volunteer, that work can get done very, very quickly. And I think in 5 years' time down the road that this building will be something that people of Virgil will feel proud of. Because as of now, it don't look too good. It's nice over to the town, and I think everybody should, or the ones that's free, can offer some of their services, should feel good about coming in and helping clean it up and have a nice presentable building to welcome the people that's coming into our town.
Okay, Gord, we look forward to coming back and seeing we had the before picture, so we look forward to coming back seeing the after picture.
Yeah, well, that's the idea, I think, because like by having a museum, you just don't say this is it, here's the finished product. You got to do a little story about, like say for 10, 15, 20 years down the road, look, how did you, prepare the building, okay? So now we got it before. Hopefully, probably when somebody comes in doing some work, we'll get them to film doing the work, and all this will be kept on video for years down the road. And even when tourists comes in, like say in a couple of years' time, because I don't think they'll have that part of it ready this year. That like when Mr. Sims did the tape on the antiques, we could sort of have that on a TV, like playing all the time, and then you have different videos that's been done on preparing this building and things like that. So yes, Dave, looking forward to coming back, even in probably about a week's time, because I think the students will go all out, and I really expect a few people to come forward and offer their services. And thanks, Dave, for coming in and taking your time.
BBS Playbill. Tune in on Tuesday at 7 p.m. for a rebroadcast of Hard Bread. Join us on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. for both videos from the school video exchange. On Thursday at 7:30 p.m. we will have a video entitled Time for Change from the DFO Video Library. And I'll be here again next week with This Week in Review. Next week's program will be followed by the second part of Stuffed Squid. Please stay tuned now for Hard Bread, courtesy of our friends at Ramia Broadcasting. For This Week in Review, I'm Dave Cooper. Good night.